It's going to back you into a corner and you're going to experience some darkness that you've never felt.
Just take the biggest step you can with your next move.
I mean, did I ever think I was going to become a professional wrestler at that time? Like, if I was to tell anyone, they're like, wait, what are you going to do?
Right.
They're just dreams and wishes and wants. It can't be a dream. It has to be a goal.
It's our own journey. It's our own path. It's our own peripetia. It's our own realization, about what we thought we knew.
Was there a risk for you then, Mike? Like, you have this pretty good career doing what you were doing, or if this didn't work out, could you have just gone back to what you were always doing? Or were you taking a leap? If this failed, you might be 44 years old with a pretty big failure on your resume, and you've lost this momentum you had in your other career.
Yeah, I had to quit. I had to quit a steady gig at CBS. I had to quit a show called Worst Case Scenario, which, was on TBS and doing okay. Yeah, I had to abandon not just my existing career, but my existing model. Remember, I was in love with the romantic version of myself.
Yeah.
When I was 42, I'm a freelancer. I got a pretty good toolbox, right? I can get hired by virtually anyone. I just wasn't looking for jobs that I cared about. I was just looking to stay busy. I squirreled my money away. I took my retirement in early installments, and I felt like I had it down,
Yep.
But I didn't, because, well, maybe I did, but then I got a little older, and then my pop got old, and then my mom called me, and then people called me on all my bullcrap. Like, I had a pretty good model, and it served me pretty well for a big chunk of my life. But then my life changed,
Yeah.
and this is the thing. I think it's so easy for people to forget. We're not in a snapshot. We're in a movie. Everything is always changing, including us, right? We're always a little older. We're always getting more experience. And if we fall too deeply in love with our routines,
Yes.
and our vision of ourself, then we risk, I think, maybe missing opportunities that come along. So this whole notion of me, becoming a guest instead of a host, that wouldn't have happened on paper, and it wouldn't have happened in most other environments. I had to be in the sewers, Ed.
Yeah.
I was baptized in a river of shit. I had to be thwarted at every turn from doing my job. The rat had to intervene. The roaches had to intervene. The excrement had to make the whole thing untenable. Only then did I look around and say, well, I can't do my job. Maybe I can help that guy do his.
Love it. The visual of the giant condoms floating down the river of crap will not leave me for the rest of the day. So I appreciate that visual. But I think there's a lesson in there that, you don't take credit for. It's why I asked you. And that is that, the show is really about, you are a guest and they are sort of the star of their career. But, everyone hear what he just said. The greatest work of his life, the most impactful work of his life, all the other ancillary things that's come from it, came from a leap he made when he had a pretty decent gig going on. And he doesn't ever talk about that in most of the other interviews that I've seen him in. And that's a lesson for so many of us. It's easy to want to change when life's hell. It's easy to want to change your conditions when things are just terrible. But it's not so easy when things are pretty good and you're in a routine and you're getting some acknowledgement for it. And it's not so bad. In fact, it's better than it used to be. That's a difficult time to say, no, I'm crumbling it up again and I'm going to the next level. I'm going to try something new. And that took guts. And like for most people, on the other side of that was probably an impact greater than the cumulative impact you had made in the first 42 years. I know you've got a lot of humility, but that's an absolute fact, is it not?
Look, I'll take credit where it's due. I mean, for instance, the whole Forrest Gumpian approach that led to Dirty Jobs is a completely unscriptable, unknowable thing. I created that show and I got it on the air, and I'm proud of it. However, 32 other shows have come out of Dirty Jobs. That last count, probably more. 32. Now, I don't want the credit for those, and I don't want the blame either, because you can't control but a very short list of things, and you put your ideas out into the universe. You make your widget. I put a show out into the universe. Some people looked at it and saw a reason to go to college. Otherwise, you're going to wind up crawling through a river of crap. Other people saw the same exact show and took great comfort in the fact that we found dignity in every single vocation. It's not up to me to decide what you see in dirty jobs. It's not up to Smith & Wesson to decide what you're going to do with the Saturday night special that you bought. Are you going to save someone? Are you going to protect your home? Are you going to make a life of crime with this tool? What are you going to do? It's not up to Mark Zuckerberg to decide what I'm going to say to the 6 million people on my Facebook page. Am I going to use that space to push forward ideas that I think are helpful and useful to my species? Or am I going to share recipes for casseroles and cat videos? Or am I going to use it to just rant and rage, against all the injustice in the world? I get to choose how to use the tools at my disposal. Mark Zuckerberg and Mr. Remington and Smith and Wesson and, they don't get to choose how the people use their tools.
Yeah.
And I've been made hyper aware of that over these last couple of years. We all have access to the same basic tools. What we do with them, well, that's the difference between people who can sleep at night and people who can't.
That's so true. But it takes courage to do that, especially when you didn't have to do any of that stuff and people would have kept just loving you and moved on with their lives. But you want to make a difference. You want to contribute. It's all about taking these risks. I'm curious for the 50 millionaires, though. So is there anything with them? Success leaves clues, right? Was there something that you noticed in them that maybe the other ones didn't have? Or that you just noticed in them that you'd impart on to people who want to be financially successful as they do their art form in their life?
I think we've already talked around it a little bit. Don't let anybody take the art out of your vocation. Don't let anyone do that. Don't look at whatever you think you're passionate about as the thing that leads you. Don't do that. This is the real danger of following your passion. It might work. And when it works, other people look at that and assume, well, that's the way to do it. It's a way. And sometimes a way is the right way. But there are a lot of people in this country, Ed, and a lot of people are singing out of a different hymn book. And a lot of people, in terms of becoming successful, it's not at all about following your passion. It's like we said before, take the reverse commute, find the thing that nobody's doing, find the direction where no one's going and go in that direction. Yeah. And then figure it out. Embrace the suck. There's not much new to say. This is the essential problem, with conversations like this one. Because we've had some success in our own life, we would like to be able to say something that really connects with the fat part of the bat, that can make, millions of people nod their head in quiet agreement. We want to help turn a light on someplace. But I'm afraid, really, if we're really committed to staying in our own lane, then the only thing we can really talk about as an expert is ourselves. It's our own journey. It's our own path. It's our own peripeteia, right? It's our own realization, about what we thought we knew.
What advice would you give to anybody listening to this, your daughter included, who says, but this is my dream. I have this dream. Everyone thinks I'm nuts. I'm a ring card girl and I would like to be a UFC champion someday. Right. Or, I'm a stay-at-home mom right now, but I would love to start a business and be Sarah Blakely from Spanx. Or, I'd love to become an influencer on social media and inspire people and move them, or whatever it might be. And they're just miles from it right now. It's just, everyone would think they were crazy. What advice would you give to them? Or what would be the words that you would say to them about pursuing it?
I think that we all, would love to do something. We all wish to have this or wish to have that. We all dream of being this or being that. And like when you use the words like wish and want and hope, then that's what they are. They're just dreams and wishes and wants. And so you have to put the action in. You have to, it can't be a dream. It has to be a goal. And you have to work on that goal every single day. And you have to put the time in, you have to put the energy in, and it is not going to happen overnight. And you have to understand that. And you have to understand that it's not going to happen, in a year. And if it's something that you're passionate about, the time shouldn't matter. The time will fly by. And as long as you keep, put your head down and grind it out, it will happen if you're passionate enough about it. And if you care enough to see it through, it will.
Okay. I already can tell you that's going to be one of the clips to promote the show because that was so damn good. Like, I totally love that. And I love when I watch your face get emotional. I love it because you mean it so deeply. It just, I don't know. I think everybody wants to win, but then I do think there are people that just have this, and it's overused term, heart of a champion, but like it's right on the edge. It is for me too. Like, I want to be somebody. I want to make a difference. Like, it matters to me. It makes me emotional. And I can see that with you too. And obviously on a completely different level than me, but you have to want it so bad, guys, that it brings you almost to tears, that it's right there. Like that's how you know you're in, when you are so emotional about it that you wake up thinking about it. You go to sleep thinking about it. When you talk about it, missing out on it is so scary to you that it almost brings you to tears. Like it's got to be right there, because I want to ask you about that preparation. So basically your answer is one that I would give, which is that you need to outwork everybody. Like, it's great that you think it and want it and hope it and all that stuff. Like, you got to fight for it, literally. Yeah. But I don't think people often know at a world-class level, because there's a zillion people out there doing Muay Thai right now, or karate or Kempo. They're learning to be the defensive skills. And then there's everybody in a gym, and then there's the little circuits, and then there's moving up, and then there's, Strike Force back in the day and all the way up now. And then there's the UFC, and then there's staying there, and then there's the top 10. And then there's like 5 or 8 women over the last decade, of which you're one of. So just so everyone understands the context of this, of what this woman's accomplished, right? And here's the thing. I was at the gym this weekend, and it was a Sunday, so it was cool. Anybody in there I got respect for. But how they think they're training. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean, right? You know where I'm going. They think they're training. And I'm like, pick it up. Let's go, man. Like, it's not 4 minutes in between sets. Like, stop yawning. Get off your phone. Bust your ass. Let's go. Throw some energy at this. And I think the world-class level of entrepreneurship, being a mom, being a dad, faith, fighting, I don't think most people have an appreciation, the extent of the work, the extent of the obsession. You know what I mean? Like, that level. Describe for us, because we're running out of time, and I want them to have this, so take your time on it. What's that look like? What's the elite level UFC top 10 in the world look like in terms of the work for you the last bazillion years you've been doing it up till now? Like, you probably even train with people like, that's not the level. Even though they're a pro fighter, that's not the level. Can you describe what that's like?
Well, I think about my daughter, and I think about some of the things that I try to instill within her, even just now at school, when she's doing her work and I'm checking her work, and the directions say complete 2 or 3 sentences in order to answer this question. And she does the bare minimum, and she does 2 sentences. And I ask her why. And she said, because that's what the directions say. And I said, but does that get your complete thought down on the paper? Like, is that the best you can do? Are you content with being average? Because if you are, that's your choice, And those are the things that I ask her, like, on a daily basis, because I want to grind it in her head that she should not be content with being average. It's okay, but she should not be content with being there. Like, she should want to propel herself forward. And that is not something that I can do for her. It's only something that she can do for herself. And I think the same goes in fighting. And a lot of the times, do the work sounds so simple, But something that, my very first instructor used to tell me, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. And so, yeah, it's simple to work on a jab, but does that make it easy if you're doing it over and over and over again to perfect it the way that John Jones has his jabs, And so sometimes the most simplest tasks are the ones that you have to work on to be the best. And I think not enough of us appreciate or have really embraced the suck of work, the process, the meaty stuff of why it gets done. And that's what it is. It's like allowing yourself to get in the zone, to put your head down, to do the work, to get there before everybody else, to do the work and to stay there when, and it's not because everybody left, it's because you're not done. When you know you're done, then you're done. And that's a different done for everybody. Like you said, I definitely am probably one of the most clumsiest MMA fighters, not the most gifted, naturally gifted. But I put in the work to get there, and so, and I know that, and only I know that, and only that person, like everybody will complain, how come I haven't got there? Well, because you're complaining about how come you haven't got there instead of trying to figure out what it is that you did wrong.
So good. I'm going to have one more question for you, but I want to acknowledge one thing that Michelle just said, which is that I think it's the tedious work of over and over and over again in life and business, doing things that become monotonous and not getting bored with doing them to perfection. Nick Saban says, we don't do this until we get it right. We do it until we can't get it wrong. It's just a different standard with the best of the best of the best. And that's why he's won 7 national championships at Alabama. So thank you for today, number one. Now everybody's favorite fighter is you, and everyone's going to root for you. But so I have to ask you one more thing, because I just want to pull one last thing out of your brain, and then I want to know what's next for you. So you have to have a superpower, though, Michelle. To get to your level, you have a superpower. There's something about you, whether it's your work ethic, your intensity, your ability to focus, your speed, your power, your agility, I've worked with some fighters where their superpower is they actually love getting hit and absorb punishment better than most people, right? So I'm curious, you've gotten where you've gotten. What would you say, and don't use humility here, what is Michell Waterson's superpower? What is yours, do you think?
You say don't use humility, but I guess what I would say my superpower is that I always feel like that there is so much more to learn. And I don't want that comes off as being, humble. And so I'm like, what else is when we talk about fight or flight, I do have fight in me. Like, when push comes to shove, if I'm shoved, I'm pushing back. And so I know I have that in me. And that's it. Everybody, you have either one or the other,
I love that. And by the way, I think that is your superpower. I thought you were going to say I outwork everybody, but I actually think the deeper answer is your humility, which is what causes you to outwork everybody, because you are so humble. And so I think that's actually the most honest, true answer about you. That's what makes you a champion. It just totally does. So what's next for you? When are you fighting again? Do you know? And by the way, where can we find you so people can follow you?
I'm probably most active on my Instagram. It's Karate Hottie MMA. We've been, this year, a goal of mine is to try to be more active on my YouTube so that we can have a little bit more in-depth relationship with the people that want to be involved. So across the board, it's Karate Hottie MMA. You can find me anywhere. As far as fight news, I don't have any. I was scheduled to fight this month. Life happened. We roll with the punches. So we're probably thinking April, May timeframe for my next fight.
Okay. Well, we're all rooting for you, and you just picked up, probably millions more people that already loved you, but hopefully we've introduced the world to the way you think. Just want to thank you, because we got inside the mind of a champion. We got inside the mind of a mother. We learned about the mental game. We learned about triggers. We learned about humility. We learned about preparation, overcoming fears. I think you're the most honest guest I've had, and I'm so inspired by you. And I shouldn't say that. It's not fair to my other guests, but you're as honest a guest as I've ever had. And I enjoyed today so much. I just want to ask the audience to please share this with people that you care about. Everyone from young athletes to mothers to entrepreneurs to just people that want to be happier and overcome their fears and work on their self-confidence. Michelle is an absolute shining star and example. So Michelle, thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
God bless everybody. Max out. What about your reasons? I think big goals are awesome, but when I meet people that have deep emotional reasons for doing this or whatever it is they're doing, that typically overrides most pain, most fear, most adversity when they can reflect on those reasons. What are yours? And is there any time during these 100 days that you reflect on it, either during the running, swimming, or biking, or when you're resting in the evening?
Yeah, I think the number one reason people fail in anything that they're doing is because the reason, the benefit, the value didn't match the sacrifice that they were doing. And I think that is the reason why most people fail, is because they haven't put enough thought and time into what they're doing. And I call it a bag of whys. And everybody says, what's your why? What's your reason? And I promise you, if you go into a journey that has meaning, that is going to push you to the brink, that is going to challenge you to your very core, it's going to back you into a corner and you're going to experience some darkness that you've never felt. I promise you, your one reason is not enough. And you're going to have to pull all of the reasons and put them together into one big ball of purpose and reason in order to overcome that moment. Because you're going to get there and you're going to go, this is why I started. Now that I'm in the pain that I'm in and I'm backed into the corner, that's not enough and I'm out. Mm. And so if you're on the cusp of something big and on a journey, I think it's super important to sit back and reflect and start to compile the reasons that you're doing it. And it can't be a lifetime reason, right? Things are always going to evolve and change. When I was on the 50, we had lost everything. We were broke. I wasn't financially stable. We had lost our home. They had taken it away from me. And while I was out there, my reason was, I'm going to take my life back. I'm going to build my dream home, and I'm going to give my wife and kids the family that I believe they deserve. Mm-hmm. Well, I had done that, and going into the 100, that can no longer be my reason. Okay. It has to change. And so you have to be thoughtful and with intent, with the purpose and reason you're doing things. And to be honest with you, a huge reason for me on the 100 was because I said I would. Mm-hmm. And to me, even in the darkest of moments, my word meant so much that I could not set that ultimate example for my kids and watch them have them watch me back out for really no good reason. Pain, discomfort, just because I'm done. And to me, showing my kids that ultimate example of you say you're going to do something, which I think is a lost art. To me, when I said I was going to do it, it was my virtual handshake to anybody that was listening that I'm committing to do that. And I think the day and age of like, there's got to be an ironclad contract and this money on the line and that money. No, I shook your hand and I said, I'm going to go out and do the Conquer 100 project. And to me, it was, I'm going to prove to everybody, but most importantly, myself and my family, that I am who I said I am. And without question, it's going to take hell or high water for me not to continue on the journey and to do what I said I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was reason enough. And it should be reason enough for most people that our word should be our bond, and integrity at the highest level should be the most important thing. If you lead with love and integrity, the cream will always rise to the top. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's going to take a little bit longer, but if you always strive to take the higher road, you never have to look over your shoulder. You never have to worry about somebody opening up the closet. You never have to worry about somebody else's opinion of you. You never have to worry about the journey that you're on, because you have built that confidence of love and integrity, and you can go forward with intense confidence that it doesn't matter what anybody else's opinion is because I have that love and integrity on the journey that I am, and my family's here with me, and nothing can trump that.
Brother. There's people who say inspiring things, and then there's inspiring people. rarely is somebody both. And you're incredible. Like, I'm watching my face in the camera as you're talking. Like, I need to maintain my face because I'm just, I don't have ever done that in an interview before. I got a lot of things I wanted to get to, and we'll have you back because you're incredible. But I do want to go through two more things. One, was the hardest part the lack of rest? I'm just curious because there's not a ton of rest. I mean, actual sleep. Like, I was reading that you actually didn't just black out, but like you could fall asleep riding the bike. True or false?
True. So
Wow.
let me contrast really quick the difference between the 50 campaign where we did 50 fulls in 50 days through 50 states.
Yeah.
And then the 100 where it was in a remote location.
Which you got to get more rest then, right? The second time.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if I was to pigeonhole or label the 50, it was logistics, it was fatigue, and it was chaos.
Okay.
And then the 100 would have been pain and duration. Right. And so the whole reason I believed that 100 was possible was if I remove chaos, put systems in place, can we double what everybody thought was impossible and defy logic? Right. And what happened is the chaos still ensued because you just can't predict the unpredictable. And when you're doing anything for a quarter of a year, we've all heard that in order to achieve success, you've got to have, it's when preparation meets luck.
Right.
And a lot of luck has to go into these types of things when you're doing it for that long. And so to compare those two, the 100 was very difficult because of how long it was. And you're talking about going from 7,000 mile campaign to 14,000 miles, which is the compounding effect of that is super hard to rationalize in our minds and in our heads. And so that's how I would compare the 50 and the 100.
It's just even as you say it, it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. It's got to be one step in front of the next. All right, last question. By the way, thank you for today. It goes without saying. Like, I already know what the response is going to be to this. I have, when I do interviews, I love all of them. I won't have someone on my program anymore. We're lucky that we can get who we want typically, that I'm already not friends with, fascinated by, or inspired by, or want to learn myself from. But then there are certain ones that I'm doing the conversation, I'm in the interview, but I'm making decisions as you're talking. Mm-hmm. I'm making decisions as you're talking, man. And that's when I know it's profound. And that's what I've been doing the whole time we're talking. Share with us what it's like to finish, to achieve it. So you've had a few of these. We're all sitting out here like, I got my dream too, man. Mine isn't 100, conquer 100. It's not that. My dream is X or Y. What's it feel like? Whew, I did it. What's that feeling like, if you can even begin to describe it?
Yeah, this could be an entire podcast to unpack, because coming off the 50, I got heavily warned. They said, look, you're going to fall into depression. You're going to have confusion, brain fog. You're not going to know what's up. And I didn't experience that on the 50. And so when I was coming off of the 100, I was like, it's not going to happen. I've got this. I'm a man. I'm invincible. I just did sports history. I'm good. And you saw the emotion of crossing the finish line of the 100, and that was raw and that was real. And what I didn't expect was the depression, the confusion, the brain fog. I don't know when it happened, but at some point in the time, I transitioned into a protective state to where I was in such trauma and turmoil that my brain was protecting me. And it was not allowing me to feel. And I believe it was probably around 85 that, now looking back on it, I was in the ultimate of flow state. Mm-hmm. And that's when it was somebody said, the documentary asked me a question. I was on the table and they said, how many could you do? And I said, 200. Like, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, 200. I was in such a state of like power and flow. And then I came out of it, and I had this like my brain, and our brains are so powerful, Ed, that it was masking every emotion that was real and that I was feeling. And it's hard to explain, but I was in an ultimate protective state from trauma. And I now have a lot of empathy for people that are going through something intense that they aren't themselves because they're trying to protect themselves from the feelings or the emotions or the trauma of what they're going through. And I would have never said I was in that state until I had an opportunity to come out of it. And it's been really hard. I've been walking around the house. I'm supposed to be recovering. I don't know what to do. That was who I was. And that was my identity and everything. And now that gets stripped away. And then you start questioning, well, who am I? Is that my only value? Is that my only worth? And then now you start to have this like real conversation with yourself. Okay, now what is my place? And you start to go through this transitional conversation with yourself. And I think there's 3 phases to any big journey. It's preparation, it's execution, and then it's post and recovery to whatever that looks like. And I think we have to respect all 3 levels of that type of journey. And the recovery portion of it could be the most important because it's when you unpack the lessons and you try to internalize the experience so that you can evolve again and be a better person to have influence that you want to have to help other people have that same type of experience in their lives on a positive level. And so I'm grateful for the struggle. I'm grateful for the lessons that I can learn so that I can develop empathy for others that are in that situation. And so like we talked about, I'm grateful for rock bottom. I'm grateful for the struggle. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn those lessons so that I can be a better father and person.
I don't think most of your dreams in life show up in the package you expect them to.
Right. No,
I really don't.
agree.
Or even your spouse in many cases, right? Maybe not.
Totally.
But once they do show up, there's this instant intuition you have, almost like I belong here.
Yeah.
Or
That's
I
what it
belong
felt
with this
like.
person. There's like a belonging that you feel, I think, when you find something.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a trip. I mean, let's be honest, you're working at Hooters, you go, they don't want you.
Yeah.
Right? And then you still pursue it though. So that's the other thing too that people need to learn, especially young people to watch this. Like, that dream may not just reveal itself to you in ease, like it's just automatic. Like things don't just fall right into place easily. You have to push through some of these walls and barriers, right? And you guys are obviously point of that.
Yeah, and take those chances. I think sometimes people are so afraid to step outside of the box or I mean, did I ever think I was going to become a professional wrestler? And at that time, like if I was to tell anyone, they're like, wait, what are you going to do?
Right.
But I didn't have that fear of like, no, yeah, that's what I'm going to go do and I'm going to try it out. And even when my mom was like, no, my grandfather was like, no, we were like,
grandma.
Yes, no, we're going to do it.
Huge. Because those 2 things, by the way, when I interview people, those 2 things are what stop everybody. It's the initial, like, family, actually, people that love you going, you're nuts, stop it, don't chase that, be normal, like conform, right? So you didn't listen to those things. That's huge.
Yeah, and we were in serious relationships at the time, and we were 22 years old at the time. Yeah, we were 22 years old at the time, both dating older men who we went and told, like, we want to be professional wrestlers and we're going to move to Tampa, Florida. They were like, no.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I was with my boyfriend at the time for 2 years.
Long time.
And he
At that
looked at
age,
me and goes, you're just all of a sudden going to pick up your stuff and move away from me?
And across country, I mean, moving from
the coast.
LA to Tampa, Florida.
Yeah. And so I was like, in my heart, I feel like I need to do this. And I just want you to support me on this. And even though I was 22, so in love, I told myself I would never let a man hold me down. And I wasn't going to make a decision based on him. And we packed up was it Nissan Sentra?
Yeah, Nissan Sentra.
Nice ride.
Yeah.
Or was it in Malibu?
No, it was a Sentra. I think it was a Sentra. But her and I were like, we sold one car, we packed all our stuff in one, and then we drove to Tampa.
Country.
I got to tell you, no matter what it is, such a trip, man. Because your career is like totally unique, right?
Right.
Like no matter what it is, when I interview people that have become really successful, there's these threads. And like a lot of them is, it didn't show up like what I thought.
Right.
I kind of took this risk. My family didn't want me to do it.
Yeah.
I sacrificed. I can't tell you how many people have loaded up cars or moved into apartments or like I guess what I'm saying is they step way back first.
Yeah.
Like you were at Hooters, you're probably doing pretty good, drinking some beer on the weekend, had some good boyfriends. Life wasn't that bad. Now you're in a car driving on the center. I can picture you two going out there. That's crazy. Were you both saying we're crazy, or were you both like, we're going to try this, we're going to do this?
There was like an excitement there.
Yeah.
I think it was.
And we thought there was, because as waitresses, we were making good money, and then it went from what we make in one night to almost what we were going to make in a week. So we were even taking a big cut, with our finances in. But her and I, it was just that connection we had with WWE that was so instant that even though if we fail, we were like, we have to do this.
We have to try.
And her and I were never, the thing about Nicole and I is we don't have ego.
You don't.
So we're never scared to fail. Because for me, like my mom told us growing up, you can't live with no regrets. Like my mom's like, you wake up in the morning and you regret something, you will hate yourself. Wow. So my mom always embedded that in us, and Nicole and I've always lived like that with no regrets. Even if we fail, it's like, well, we tried it and we sucked at it. So
such huge, like things that you do really naturally, the two of you are like huge lessons for other people. Like all this stuff, especially young people who find they need to hear this stuff. Like you don't want to have regrets. I'm old now, man. I'm 47. I'm so glad I took risks when I was younger, and I'm not sitting here now lamenting things I didn't try because I did fail at other things, right? So I totally want to acknowledge the power of what you just said. It's awesome. So you go there, obviously something clicks. You're in Tampa. What was the first? So you go through all of this stuff. You're pushing your way. What's that first night? Was it? Did you say it was a Monday night Raw that you were on?
No, so Friday night SmackDown,
okay, Friday
and we
night.
were in Pittsburgh.
What was that like? Was it? I mean, obviously, I'll never forget that.
I wanted to vomit. No, it was so blurry going down. But you know, at
blurry,
the time,
like you were blurry. Like,
I'll never forget because they're like, you guys are gonna come up next Friday. We're gonna debut. Yeah. One twin's gonna be under the ring. The other one will have the match. Then we're gonna do a twin switch. All of a sudden, she breaks her nose the next night at FCW. Oh my
gosh!
I mean, like so bad. You could barely see my eyes.
Yeah.
I looked like a dinosaur. Like it was. I didn't even look human.
Oh my god!
It was so bad.
So
on a lot of
makeup.
I was like, or I could punch you in the face and be
that could be your
like,
deal.
No, thank you. So then they ended up having me. It'd be my name, Brie Bella, coming down the ramp, and Nikki hadn't debuted yet. Nikki hadn't debuted yet, so we did the whole twin switch. But I'll never forget, FCW didn't have TV at the time, like there's NXT now, so nobody knew who we were. So we were going to be able to get away with it, but we were semi-main event when they announced my name. The crowd went dead quiet.
But say everything before with our outfits.
Oh well, so the outfits that we had and then we spent money on.
Brie and I always wanted to be prepared. So if we ever got called up on the road, we went and had like these 3 beautiful outfits, very Britney Spears inspired because we loved her at the time. Yeah. And we just wanted to have gorgeous TV outfits made, and so if we ever got the call, we were going to be like, look so well put together.
But the girls didn't allow us to wear, which I understand. It's being new girl and you have to deal with the veterans, and at the time, like WWE isn't like that anymore, and I think it's because a lot of us who are now the veterans went through it, and I feel like there's no reason to put someone through that. But they just had a lot of rules. It was like sorority. We walked in, nope. We're like, okay, and we actually got dressed. You changed way down.
Changed in the public bathroom down the hall.
So we had no idea what to do. And we weren't about to like rock the boat with the other girls. So the seamstress at the time were like, what do you have in your bag? We're like, we have a teeny and our workout pants from earlier. They're like, so they cut our bikini, they sew it on, workout pants that we wore earlier that day, and that's how we debuted.
No way.
Yeah, I look back at those pictures and I'm like, oh, geez. But
it worked.
It worked. Yeah.
So they call your name, you went blurry though?
I did. I remember I was like in Gorilla and everyone's like staring at me like, you got this, you got this. And then I hear my music and they announce me, and then I hear the crowd go dead quiet, like, who's that? And I think they were all like, is she local? And I come out and I'm like smiling real big.
Selling it.
And I'm just like, my heart was about to explode.
I was underneath the ring watching it on a monitor, and I'm like, okay, what's the spot? What am I doing? Like, this is, my nerves were like so bad. And I had to get loaded under. So they put me in like sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and then I go out with the crew and I'm hiding. But I was so nervous. I'm like, I can't even get the sweatpants off. Like, I'm like,
and because we're twins, she's nervous for me too.
Yeah.
Because if I don't perform good, it's on her as well.
And I heard the quiet, like, or the crowd get dead quiet. I'm like, oh no, don't mess up.
But it pulled off though. It worked. Did you know it worked? Did you know it worked when you were done? You're like, we did it.
Oh yeah. And the crowd actually got into the match.
Okay.
So I actually was like, and I was lucky to work with Victoria, who honestly, like, I was like, she had been there for so long, and when they're like, you have to beat her, Nicole and I were like, wait, we have to beat Victoria? But she was so cool about it.
So amazing.
And she helped me out so much in that match, and we got the crowd into it. And when I went under the ring, the crowd loved it.
Okay.
They loved it. And then all of a sudden, Nicole, Victoria went under, and then she pulled Nicole out, but the crowd didn't know. The crowd loved that. They just loved that Victoria reached under and yanked Nicole out.
She was the perfect person to do it, because not only was she like this powerhouse, but she was so animated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she really sold the whole like twin thing going under the ring, and I think that also helped people believe in it so much.
That is so, see, I think also like what you're doing, also those lines that run through other things. I think when you prepare, there are points in your life where like you have to hit that moment. Like there's a moment and you got to deliver, right? And like you guys prepared that. Because if you don't deliver that night, you may never get any heat again, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Your heat may be gone forever.
Yeah.
And so
It's so
It
true.
gives you chills, because that's so true.
yeah, you've got to hit your
You have
moment.
like that
You
one
do.
moment,
Yeah.
and we had those actually end up being like a month straight, because Vince loved the twin switch, and so he would work with us in rehearsals like, this is the timing you have to get, and I'd be like, breathe.
Yeah,
you
they're
have
like,
to
Bella,
this
let's go to
side."
rehearsal. And I'm like,
Did you say Vince worked with you?
Yeah.
Really directly?
he
Okay.
directly with all our twin switches, which was almost like more nerve-wracking than performing.
Sure.
Because I wanted to make him so happy.
Of course, you want to make him proud, exactly.
And
so why does it work though? Like, why did it work? What do you think it is about you two that's worked?
you know what
That's a good question.
I think for Nicole and I think because we're twins, and I think for us, the one thing we've noticed, and you can say your part, like add on to it, but as little girls, people would grab us and go, like they're like, are you guys twins? You look like, and we'd be like, yeah. They're like, no, her nose is this, and her eyes are that, and this and that. Every day it would happen to us, and they're like, but you're all the time we'd get compared and then picked apart every day.
Okay.
So it made us very like confident, because it was like we could never get insecure, because it just happened. We got used to it. So I felt like we never were in competition, because I always rooted her on and myself on. So then we never got in competition with other people.
So are you two don't have that normal rivalry that you would
At
think
all.
siblings have?
No, so we never waste our energy, I feel like, on going against other people. We only use our energy to like help each other out and push forward.
And I think that's how we made it work backstage. But I think how we made it work as our characters and people getting behind us on one match was, Brie and I have this, I think, natural ability to connect with the audience. And I think sometimes that's what some of our superstars forget is, you can't be a superstar in the WWE if you don't connect with the audience, because our WWE universe, they make up all of WWE. So our shows would mean nothing without our crowd.
Right.
We'd have no one just boo us or cheer us or say this is awesome, or they make our stories happen.
Yeah.
And I think Brie and I just realized that early on. We just had that instant crowd connection.
Yeah.
And then we realized, like, this is about the fans. This isn't even about us.
And I think they
so-
felt that. Like, I think they felt the respect.
So in your case, though, it fascinates me. So you kind of have this entrepreneurial spirit. You go to college, first dude in your family really to do that. You do well. You're doing very well in the banking space.
Yeah.
And then, but you've got this entrepreneurial bug sort of floating in you the whole time. And there's a lot of people listening to this that want to be entrepreneurs, but they're out of job right now. You know, they're winning where they're planted for now, but they've always wanted to have their own thing or start something. And in your case, what I love is you didn't even know what the hell it was, right? So one day, tell them, you just basically walk into your boss and go, hey, and what did you say?
Yeah, I just walked into my boss's office one day. This was like about almost 7 years into my banking career, and I was executive vice president, chief risk officer for this bank, making a ton of money. Never thought I'd make that much money, you know, just because, you know, it just wasn't a thing, you know, growing up, thinking that that was possible at that age. And but I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I had to just go all in. And so I went in my boss's office and just said, his name was Jerry Goldstein, and I said, Jerry, hey, I just want to tell you that I'm going to resign. And he laughed. He goes, come on, what do you mean? Nobody's going to pay you more than I'm paying you. And I said, no, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to do a startup. And he's like, really? Well, you must have a great idea. I said, well, I don't really have the idea yet, but I need time to think about it, because I need to go all in and do it.
Didn't people think you were crazy?
He thought I was crazy. He really thought I was
even
crazy.
the people around you, like, you're going to leave this really good job, like, I want to be, but you don't even know the idea.
Yeah, everybody thought I was crazy.
No capital either, right? Like, not a lot of capital.
Well, he thought I was so crazy. He said, you know what, put me down for your first, I think it was 50 grand.
No way.
As an investor, 25 or 50.
The guy you're resigning from goes, well, when you figure it out, I'll give you $50,000.
Yeah. And so I knew nobody. It wasn't like, we had family, friends and things that had money and I started with angel investors. It was that first bit of money. And then he basically introduced me to two people. Said, hey, you should go talk to these two people. And then from that seed, I wound up talking to, I don't know, maybe 200 angel investors, and I got 60 investors to invest a total of $5 million. No venture. I didn't know any VCs. I didn't know anything about the startup world. I didn't know what a cap table was. It was like, I knew nothing. But I got 60 angel investors to give on average what's about 80 grand each. And it was like $5 million. And that was the thing. I try to tell people all the time that you don't have to have everything buttoned up and know exactly what you're going to do. You kind of just go all in. And a great example of this was,
I agree.
We started, there's like a CPA, a chartered, accountant, and there's the CFA, chartered financial analyst. There was nothing for financial risk managers. You couldn't get certified. So I was talking to my boss and became a friend, and I was like, why don't we just kind of create an exam for risk managers, because it doesn't exist. And he was kind of like, yeah, well,
you literally created an industry.
Yeah, how do you create an exam? And so we started talking to people, and basically they're like, well, you can't just create a certification. Like, who are you? You're like 24 years old. You can't just start an exam. Like, who's gonna like accredit it, or who's gonna? And I said, no, we'll start an association.
Wow.
And a not-for-profit association, and that association will credit it, and then we'll kind of do the exam. And so everyone's like, that's crazy. You can't do it. So I said, forget it. I'm jumping in. What we're going to do is we're going to set up a website. We're going to put up a date for the exam. The first thing we did was a date. We just picked a date. Like, it's May, whatever. I don't remember the year, 98. Here's the date. It's New York City, actual date. And here's the outline of all the things that are going to be on the exam. Send a check for $500 and you got your seat. And then that's it. And so we just put it up there. And all of a sudden, we started getting checks. People started sending checks. And it was just like, so we looked at each other like, I think we need to write this exam now.
Oh my gosh, there was no exam at the time.
No, it was just, we just started with the date and the agenda for, the topics.
Yes.
And we started getting all these checks, and we got 34 checks, $17,000, and 34 people. And so we decided, me and Lev sat down, and we spent weekend after weekend, nights and things, writing this entire exam on every topic. And we gave also recommended readings as well. And then we went to New York City, we rented out a place, and we administered this exam to 34 people. And then we went home and corrected it. We decided where the pass-fail was. We sent certificates to the people that passed. And now today, it's still in like 50 countries around the world. There's like thousands of people taking this exam.
You're a trip, man. Like
no, but it's just a great. I'm just saying that only because people think that when you start something, it has to be like buttoned up, or you need to have a plan, or you need to know your next step, or whatever. And what I always say is, just take the biggest step you can with your next move.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, toward your vision. You have the vision, and just take the biggest step you can. And for us, the biggest step we can take was, here's the date.
I believe
here's the
common line of the entrepreneurs who've been on the show, or my friends that are entrepreneurs, is they're willing to step into spaces they're ill prepared for. And they go, when I get in there, I'll figure it out. And then when I get in there, I'll figure it out. When I get in there, I'll figure it out. And in your case, and then I want to go to some clues, because success leaves clues. And what I want to spend our time today on are those clues, are those lessons you've learned. But just for everybody to give some context, what made me attracted to having you on was the diversity of your success. So this is, an exam for risk managers, right? Success in that space. You take diapers.com, sell it to Amazon. I think even in your own case, because it's your story, I think even in your own case, you don't have quite the appreciation for how remarkable it is. So you take diapers.com, sell it to this little company called Amazon, right? I'm kidding. And then you build jet.com, you sell that to Walmart. Like, you've had a really crazy career for a dude who literally walks out of a job one day that's really successful and doesn't even have the damn idea yet. Yeah. Like, it's remarkable. And I want people to know, how can I be like you in my own small way? So I'm going to go through a list of sort of rapid fire stuff. Number one, do you think entrepreneurship is for everybody?
No.
And why?
I don't. I think you have to be, I'd say the key mindset is the ability to take risk and be comfortable with taking risk. A lot of people, I find that the difference between doing it and not doing it is a lot of time it comes down to risk. When you do something, there are so many unknowns, you have to be comfortable with that. And you have to be comfortable with the fact that there's a really high probability that you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
Most people just aren't comfortable, like thinking about, imagine this, somebody comes to you and says, listen, I want you to absolutely dedicate your entire life, kill yourself, give up family, friends, everything. And yeah, there's a good chance it's not gonna work. It's like, that's a tough sell.
Yeah.
That's a tough sell for most people.
Do you think
it's the combination of both? You have to do both though. You have to go all in and you have to just outwork,
everybody. Well, the reason I ask you that is I was reading some stuff you've said about the all-in thing. So you led right where I wanted to go.
Okay.
And you had a business you had invested in where the people looking at it were like, well, why is there $390,000 of your money in this investment or in this business? Like, why is that the number, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it's genius what you're going to share here. So what did you tell them and why did that really matter at the time? Why does that matter?
And I funny, and I'll have a follow-up to that too. So the pit.com, which is the business that I quit the banking to go do, which was a sports stock market that I sold to Topps, the baseball card company. I invested on the cap table $390,000, which I had saved from banking over those years. And they said, why $390,000 do you invest? Why didn't you just invest $400,000? And I said, because I only have $390,000. I literally took the entire bank balance that I had saved over those 7 years, $390,000 in cash after tax, and I just, boom, put that into the business. And the one was, needed some extra capital, so that was kind of good. But the primary reason was, one, to show people how serious and dedicated I was, like investors, which worked, by the way. You don't get 60 angel investors to put 80 grand in for somebody who's never done a startup before, unless they truly believe that this person's going to do whatever it takes. And I think that was the signal. It was like, yeah, he's got every penny of money he's made into it. And then also for me, knowing that I had every penny into it was like, there's no turning back. It was life or death. I put myself in a situation where I could not fail. Just couldn't fail.
I think that's where most people aren't willing to go, to make your point earlier. Even if it's not $390,000, if it's $39,000, or if it's quitting your job, or if it's having to sell your home to start your company. Most people aren't willing to go to that extreme. And one of the things, and I've not heard it said this way before, but I agree with it, is you said when you're even evaluating if you're going to invest, everyone that's out there that's listening, this is a very important thing that I think Marc says better than anybody. You say that when you had that 390 in there, because that's exactly all you had, it was everything you were in there, that being all in helped you find a gear in you that didn't exist had you not gone all the way in, right?
Absolutely.
So the irony is the risk you're taking to start the business may be the very thing that helps you find things in you didn't know you had.
And I wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, I tell everybody, you have to think life or death, because in every one of the startups, even in all 4 of the startups I've done, if I wasn't in that extra gear, they would have failed. Like there was none of them were like easy coast, you just sort of go, and everything's great. They all ran into a situation where you had to go to the extra gear to make it.
Or you were going to fail.
Or you're going to fail, yeah.
So all 4 of your big successes, there was a point where you were almost out of business?
Yeah, all 4 of them. All 4 of them, yeah.
Man, why is that invaluable? Because there's millions of people that are listening to this or watching it that they may be in that state right now.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, the chances are, as you're listening to this or watching this, you're in failure still.
Yeah.
The chances are.
And just raising money too. When now being on the other side and doing investments and things, that is the primary thing that I look for. Is this team all in? Do they have something at stake here that's going to push the limits of what they're capable of doing? I think humans are capable of doing so much more than they think they are capable of doing. It's that mentality. And I've seen it in myself. I've done things I didn't think were possible, work at a pace that I didn't think was possible.
And you think that's because you had to, because you were
had
all
to.
in.
Yeah, you had to. And all in, all in with certainly monetarily the 390, but then in each of my businesses, I've had every friend, and family member involved, and they have their money at stake, and people that don't have money, there's that part of added pressure. And just knowing that you don't want to let people down, not only yourself, but you don't want to let people down.
See, I think,
shareholders and things.
I think for someone who's had 4 hits like you've had, significant hits, big businesses that have sold, for someone listening to this to hear that, hey man, I was almost out all 4 times. Mm-hmm. I went all in with my cash. I didn't have it all figured out when I started. These are huge things. And that if you're not willing to tolerate risk, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. I always go back and kind of summarize lessons as we're going.